Hopefully a short video today. What I'm going to talk about, carrying on from my Ukraine war aftermath video, is something that's I think concerning me and a lot of people, and that's this very, very dangerous talk of the continued escalation of the war in Ukraine, whereby other NATO members, well, Ukraine isn't a NATO member, in reality it is, other NATO members will have to take a more active role in the ongoing conflict, which of course is code for foreign powers putting their own armies into Ukraine to fight Russia directly. Now, this has been going on indirectly for years, all the way back to the war of 14 to 16, through mercenary groups, through sheep-dipped foreign special forces that put on Ukrainian army uniform and do what they like, through special forces just skulking around quietly and hoping they don't get caught. But what they're really talking about is a direct confrontation. There's no way of saying it. It's a war. Britain going to war with Russia and thinking it can limit the conflict to the muddy fields of Ukraine. Now, the talk is dangerous and stupid alone, but let's work through it, shall we? Firstly, I think from memory, no two nuclear powers have ever gone to war with each other. None. The moment one country gets the bomb, they have never gone to war with another country that has the bomb. I might be wrong in thinking about India and Pakistan. I think, when did Pakistan get the bomb? I think it was in the late 90s. Yeah. I don't think India and Pakistan have gone to blows since then. There are countries that officially don't have the bomb, but probably do. So countries that officially don't have an A-bomb would be Israel. I think South Africa probably had one for a while. There's talk of Saudi, wouldn't be surprised. Probably Brazil, wouldn't be surprised. My understanding of it is if any country has a nuclear reactor or a nuclear power industry, it has the ability to make an A-bomb. It has the ability to synthesize and purify the relevant fissile material, as well as high-quality engineering and the staff to understand the complex physics involved. So a lot of countries probably have a bomb in the basement, as it were. But as far as we know, the declared powers are the only ones with the nuclear weapons. So that's concerning. And there's a reason why two countries with nuclear weapons have never gone to war with each other, because the ace up the sleeve is that they annihilate one another. So that's a bit stupid. But let's put that aside, and let's actually think about what would happen if British troops were fighting Russian troops in the field. And not necessarily Russian troops. There's an interesting legal loophole around this, is that Britain could go to war with the mercenary groups that the Russians use, and the affiliate nations, the Chechens and the Sparta Battalion or something. And it could say that these aren't emanations of the Russian state. These are independent contractors, and thereby us fighting them isn't actually fighting Russia. In reality, it is, but that's probably the only loophole I think they could exploit. But the problem is the British military. We all know it's been gutted. We all know it's been hollowed out. It's been dumbed down, and it's been wokeified. We had a recent scandal where the RAF got caught committing racial prejudice by saying if you're white, we couldn't hire you because we got to meet our diversity index or whatever that means. So just hiring people because of the way they look, nothing to do with the content of their character, and they were humiliated for that, and rightly so. But the wokeification of the military and intelligence, and British intelligence as well. The problem is that the British Army, and feel free to correct me on this, hasn't fielded anything in terms of a formation larger than a division, or larger than a brigade, I should say, since 2003, 20 years ago. And that was the invasion of Iraq, and that was with 3 brigades, if I remember. I think 1 armored brigade, the 16th Air Assault Brigade, and, if my fingers will bend, and the Royal Marines Commando Brigade, which I think is 3 Commando. 2 brigades or more, 3 brigades is a division. That was the largest shindig the British military had in 20 years. Since then, I think everything has been kept to a brigade size, so between 3,000 and 6,000 men, and that's essentially been an occupational counterinsurgency and policing duties, whereby the brigade was like the umbrella formation, but in reality only a battalion of that brigade would go out into the field and undertake an operation, or a battle group, a fortified battalion, or whatever. I'm sorry if my phrases are wrong, but you get the idea. So in reality, the British Army over the past 20 years only has tactical experience with moving battalions. So 2 or more companies, so about between 400 and 600 men. The Russians, on the other hand, are now more completely comfortable in moving whole corps around without any problem. And these are skills that you can't just pick up on the day. You can't just learn by skimming through the handbook. Armies can only learn by doing. And the Russians know how to move divisions around. They know how to get the logistics in order. They know how to get the engineers out to fix the roads. They have had to have done this in order to be able to array their forces. We don't have those skills anymore. They know how long it takes, because from experience, how it takes to get a brigade from here to there. They know that when the earth is wet, it takes more time. They know all this because they've been doing it for 18 months. We don't. So that's concerning. We haven't had any tactical experience bigger than a battalion. I mean, the Ukrainians they're conducting operations at the corps level. They know how to move large formations around because they've had to bloody master it. We don't have that time to regenerate those skills. They're gone, and we can't get into the field and just wing it. And of course, the British Army is well equipped and well trained, but has been for the last 20 years essentially fighting various counterinsurgency operations in the countries that we all know and love. Counterinsurgency operations against terrorists armed with dried pieces of grass is very different than going up against battle-hardened, trained, expertly led Russian forces, contract soldiers, many of whom are now battle-hardened and experienced, and aren't playing around. And as good as the British Army is, there's a difference between a completely green outfit and a blooded, hardened, seen it all, done it all outfit that's been in taking out tanks and trench warfare and God knows what for 18 months. That's concerning too. And the other thing is that we've seen, because the Ukrainian army is a NATO army, using NATO tactics, using NATO weapons, and using NATO doctrines, we've seen that a NATO army isn't as good against a Russian army as it thinks it is. The Russians will know our tactics because they've already seen them through the Ukrainians. And the final thing I think is just basic deficiencies. We hear that the Russian artillery numbers are unconscionable. The Russians have an enormous artillery dominance, and not just artillery pieces, but constant day and night shelling. I've heard somewhere that the Russians don't even count artillery in terms of shells anymore. They measure artillery in tons. So the guys on the front line said, yeah, we need another 100 tons of shells. Okay, I have 120. They don't even count individual rounds anymore. We don't have that many. I mean, last time I looked at the organization, I think we've got like 3 or 4 artillery battalions. Wow. So we also haven't got that many tanks. We haven't seen smoldering ruins of the Challengers yet. Supposedly the Ukrainians are hanging on to them in their reserves, but we'll see how well they do or don't do. Considering that the Challenger was considered to be an inferior tank than the Leopard, and the Leopards ain't done so well, so we'll see about that. So, and the other thing is strategic depth. We could really only field about probably 3, maybe 4 brigades. And when those guys are spent, that's it. We've got others, but we're not going to commit all of our forces. We've got about 80,000 frontline troops, I think, from memory. We're really only going to commit about a third of those to the front. Maybe 2/3 if it's all hands to the pumps. So that's looking at 2/3 of 80,000. 50,000, around 50,000. So it's about what? We're not going to. Again, we don't know how to move these, maneuver these, over the chessboard. So I think if a British division went toe to toe with a Russian division, those guys will be in serious trouble. They're going to get shelled into oblivion. Now, depending who's going to attack first, let us assume that the British want to attack. Our tanks are going to drive into minefields and get blown up. The British Army has no experience of dealing with massed drone attacks. I don't think we have any major electronic warfare capability in nullifying these drones. And we're going to go up against soldiers who are comparatively trained and comparatively equipped, and above all else, highly experienced and motivated, and who are now experts at both offensive and defensive fighting. We're not going to do well, boys and girls. That's just the reality of it. And the other thing is, I mean, the British Army hasn't gone toe-to-toe with a technologically compatible army, I think, since the Falklands War, 1981 or 2, whatever it was. You could argue on paper the Iraqi army of 91 was technologically quite level, but organizationally they fell apart. So it's a complete nonsense, and it'll be a total disaster. And if they do do the stupid thing of the Labour government, which may probably win the next election, this is daft enough for them to sign up to. If they do try and insert a British company here or a British battalion there, the Russians are going to single them out and make examples of them. So they're going to mass all their reserves and all their artillery and just turn them into dust. And we can't absorb the losses. We don't have 1 million men on the reserve list. We could, it takes 6 months to turn a civilian into a soldier. We wouldn't have that time. So our fragility in relation to defeat is also very present. So that's why I think it's a very bad idea. After the first bad idea of 2 nuclear powers squaring up to each other. If Britain becomes the new stick to beat the Russians with, which it very well might, because Poland doesn't want to be the new stick, Romania doesn't want to be the new stick, Finland doesn't want to be the new stick, I think they'll try something like a naval engagement, because that's something where we still have an edge, more or less, or maybe an aerial engagement. But again, it's Doctor Strangelove level insanity. So that, but please in the comments if correct me, because I undoubtedly made some errors in my thinking.